Hi everybody, welcome to Unit 2. Sorry about the rocky beginning for this class. I appreciate your patience and all the efforts you made in the first week to start understanding action research, even though I didn't quite have everything in place. So hopefully from this point on you'll know what to do and when it's to be done and have a really good understanding of the expectations. So in this overview of Unit 2, I'm going to talk a little bit about your assignments that you have coming up, and then I'll tell the story of an action research project that I did myself. So I want to start off by saying that now that I have things more laid out, I did make a few small changes in the course overview that lists the assignments and the dates they're due. So the one that you have was in the syllabus, and the revised one I have posted in Canvas, and that's the one you should go on for due dates. I'll try to keep you caught up in the way things are listed in Canvas, but please do get this revised version of that course overview so we're kind of all on the same page. I actually took out an assignment and then gave credit for something that I had you doing that I wasn't having you get credit for. So anyway, just some small changes, nothing major, but it's important that you get the most up-to-date version. So that's a good place to start. So coming up in this unit, we're really delving into how do I conduct action research. So in our first unit, we looked at what action research is, and I was really interested in reading your comments and your images that you put on our Padlet, because you've helped us to create this really rich collection of ways to explain action research. And I hope that that activity and the things that you read and viewed helped you better understand what action research is and what it is not. So we're working from this definition that action research typically happens in a classroom. It's typically done by a teacher, it's typically done with students, and it's used to improve instruction. But we are going to follow a similar process to what I would call a bigger type of research project. So yours isn't a bigger type of research project, nobody panic. It is an action research project, but we will follow a similar format for other professional research projects. So I just want to let you know kind of that's where we're headed. So here's what we're going to do to help you get ready for that. First, this week, I want you to learn from examples. I want you to read an action research study so you can see what it's all about, see what the parts are, see how the writing style is, what writing style is used, see what the teachers did in their research study. So I went to the Journal of Teacher Action Research and I pulled out 3 research studies, and we're going to use those to do a jigsaw activity. So first, you're going to go into Canvas and see which sample research study you're going to be reading. And I've listed your name by the one that you're going to be reading with a link to the article. So you find your article, you read your article, you go into the discussion board, and you will see a discussion set up for you and the 2 other people who read your same article. So 3 people are talking about the same article about the same study. So in that discussion board discussion, you're going to post a comment, and you can read the description to see kind of what I'm looking for in the comment. You're going to post a comment, and then you're going to respond 5 times at least to the 2 other people in your group. And I want those responses to be on different days. Don't do like 5 all on the day before it's due, please, because then it's not really a discussion and the other 2 people might be already done and they may never read what you wrote. So the point is for you and those 2 other people to really have a good understanding of that article. And so you're going to help each other to do that, because the next part of the activity, you're going to be talking to other people about that article. So it's important that you do this first part, this discussion board part, so that if there's any part of the article you're not sure about, rely on those 2 other people to help clarify ideas. So then, when you finish that part, you're going to be meeting with your writing team. And your writing team are 2 other people from the class, just picked randomly. Actually, Canvas, I chose to have Canvas form the writing team. So just 2 other people in your writing team, and this is a team that you'll come back to 4 times during this course. And your goal is to really become reliant on each other in that team. And so this is to get you started doing that. So the 3 people on your writing team, which is not the same 3 people who read the article. Now we have 3 people and each one read a different article. So you're going to share your sample study with your writing team. And I'll talk in just a minute about how I want you to do that. So I want to be clear, there's 2 different groups that you're in. One is the group of 3 people who read the same article. Then the next group are 3 people who each read a different article, and you're going to talk to each other about those. So that's the jigsaw activity. Now, during Unit 2, you're going to meet with your writing team. You can find the names of the people on your writing team in Canvas. If you go over to the left to the groups link, click on that. It will show you who's on your writing team. So for writing team discussion number 1, you read the instructions. It will talk to you about what the roles are on the writing team. It will talk to you about how to get your writing team discussion number 1 set up, because it's a time when the 3 of you agree to come together in Zoom to talk about your action research project. So you're there to support each other, to bounce ideas off of each other. I hope that you will speak up because the other 2 people are counting on you to have input so that their project can be the best that it can be. I'm absolutely certain that you will learn from each other. And that's one reason why I set up the writing teams, because I do believe in the power of students learning from each other. And your classmates will have lots of good ideas as you're working on your action research project. You're also going to give feedback to each other. And so you might think about using the Oreo cookie approach. It's one where you have 2 positives and a suggestion sandwiched in between. It doesn't have to be exactly in that order, but the idea is that you're balancing your comments or your feedback to your writing team members by sharing positives, what you like, what you think the person did well, and then maybe what you wonder about or what you think might seem unclear. And that's the part of that suggestion or the cream filling in that Oreo cookie. Consider your writing team discussion as productive work time, because those people are going to help you make your project better. So it's not just something that you just do, let's hurry up and get this done. This is really a time to support each other in helping your project to be as strong as it can be. So for the first writing team discussion, I want you to spend about 20 or 30 minutes talking about a link that I have in Canvas called How to Do Action Research in Your Classroom, which is really helpful. It's published by the National Association for the Education of Young Children. And what I wrote in Canvas is to read this up to page 42. So after page 42, it's not all that helpful. And don't let that scare you. It is not 42 pages full of text. It's a lot of graphics, it's really big font, it's really fast reading. But it's a good little how-to on doing action research. And so you're going to talk about that, and then you're also going to talk about the sample studies that you read. So you're going to tell the other people on your writing team about your sample study. And you're going to talk about how the authors set up their study, the questions that I have here, what role did reflection play? Those are just some prompts to help you kind of get thinking about what you might say about your study. Don't tell your team a rehash of what the study was. So we're not so interested in what the study discovered, what their results were, or what they found out. We're looking at the format of the study. So what can you take away from those sample studies that will help you understand how to do action research? The second part of that writing team meeting is to share some possible ideas you have for your own action research project. Run them by this group. Ask them what they think. Ask them for their input. If you don't have any ideas yet, ask them for some suggestions. It will be helpful, though, to get some feedback if you bring some rough notes. It doesn't have to be anything beautiful. You don't have to spend a lot of time making something special to present to your team. This is just whatever is helpful for you to kind of pull together some ideas. And if you have something written down or typed up, you can share your screen and let your team members see that, and they can give you some feedback. Now, I know sometimes it's a little uncomfortable to give peers feedback, but I really hope that you utilize this team because they are there to help you. So you can see that the total time for the writing team is supposed to be about 60 minutes. And you have a lot to do at this first one, so I definitely think that you'll have no problem filling up 60 minutes. And that goal is the time. Like I said, it's work time to help you learn and get better and get ready to work on that project. After your writing team meeting, please go into Canvas and fill out the reflection. And it's listed in Canvas as a quiz, but it's not actually a quiz. It's just reflection questions about how your group went, how your group got along and how things went and what you learned. So it's all open-ended. You can see in the description of this assignment in Canvas, you can see what those questions are. So that's how you get your points for your writing team meeting. And like I said, there's going to be 4 total. So this is just the first one that we're focusing on. Okay, the other thing that you're going to do in this unit that's due at the end of the unit is your plan for what you're going to do for your action research project. So this is a tentative plan. It definitely can change if you need to, but you're going to have something in writing that maps out what you think that you're going to be doing now. And you can read in Canvas the 7 elements that have to be in that plan. There are things like your research question and your purpose for the action research study and who's going to be the participants in your study and what are you actually going to do with them? What are you trying to find out? So I've listed out in the description what those 7 elements are. So you will create your plan by describing those elements. No, and I realize this is a working draft, but it's a good place to begin. Now, on Sunday, September 10th at 8 o'clock, I will be on Zoom. I'll post a link. There's a link posted for that in Canvas, and I'll be there to talk about ideas for action research. So if you're not sure, or you have some ideas but you can't decide which one, or you have one but you're not really sure what direction to go, all of those are okay. So this is a kind of come and go as you want to. It's not required, but it's my time that I'm going to make available for people who want to come and just talk about your ideas. So I imagine I'll be on there maybe 45 minutes or so. You don't have to be there the whole time, but you're welcome to join us. Okay, so I had originally listed that there would be an APA style assignment, but I've changed my mind about that. Some of you are probably breathing a big sigh of relief. But I've come to realize that people are in different places with what they need from APA style. So I have decided to go a different route. So I took out that assignment and I'm substituting some other things. So one thing that you'll see in Canvas is a template. And that template is going to be really helpful for you because it's going to spell out all of the things that you'll need to remember for your APA style. So in this final version of your action research project, you'll be writing a paper that follows all of the APA style guidelines. So you'll have things like a running head and a correct title page and in-text citations and citing quotes and a reference page. And this template gives you an kind of an outline for all of that. So that's where to start when you're working on APA style. And I've also given you a link to an APA quick reference guide that will be really helpful. And then on September 24th at 8 p.m., which is another Sunday, I'll be offering a live chat. It'll just be APA whatever. Questions, you want to review something, you're not sure how to list something, whatever you need, that's a good time to come and we'll work through your individual needs. I thought that would be better than having everybody do the same assignment. So that's where I'm at. So those are the things that you're working on in Unit 2. Now I want to take a few minutes and talk about an action research study that I did, because I think action research can be very exciting and fun once you get going in it. And sometimes at the beginning, people get a little nervous or maybe hesitant because they're not really sure what to do. So I thought if I talked about a research study that I did, that might help it seem a little more real. So an action research study, just like a more formal research study, typically begins with a question or a wondering. Now, if this process sounds familiar, beginning with a question, wondering, hopefully you're thinking back to when you took EL 810 in information literacy, because that course really focuses on the inquiry process. And that's what an action research study is. It's a giant inquiry project that you're doing, and like the one I'm going to talk about that I did. So if you think about it like that, maybe that makes it seem a little less daunting. So my question started with something that I saw my son doing. When he was 4, I was trying to clean the house, and if you have kids, you'll know what this feels like. Every time I got one room clean, he would just go in there and make a mess. And so I felt like I was just following him around the house trying to clean. And so finally I wised up and found something for him to do that could occupy him and keep him from making a mess. So I had him get on the computer and go on the internet. Now, mind you, this was a while ago, a few years back, and by the end of this, I'll tell you how long ago it was. But it was his first time getting on the internet. He had been on a computer at his preschool playing some games, but he had not actually gone on the internet. So I put him on the Legos website. And I went back to my cleaning, vacuuming, and I was looking over his shoulder, and I started watching what he was doing. And I was so fascinated at how easily he could navigate a website as a novice to being on the internet. And so as I was watching him, I started thinking, oh my gosh, he's going to need to know some things about reading on the internet that we maybe aren't teaching kids very well yet when it comes to what we're teaching them about reading print. So that kind of sparked an idea in my head, and I wondered, well, what is the difference between reading print and reading on the internet? And what is it that students need to know to be successful to read on the internet? So those really were my 2 questions that I had. And so that started me in on my action research study. So my study essentially was to sit by some 4th and 5th graders as they were reading on the internet, and I gave them a question that I wanted them to search for, and I asked them to think aloud while they were searching for that information. So I had one child at a time. I had a recording device, and I gave them the question on a little note card. Their question was, what is the difference between a landfill and a dump? And I asked them to search for that information. And while they were doing that, I asked them to tell me what they were thinking. So I essentially was interrupting their reading to get them to tell me. But I was trying to get into their mind and figure out what they were doing. So I had them talk through, explain aloud why they clicked on things, why they paused to read a certain thing, why they scrolled through something, why they skipped something. And I know that's kind of not a real reading situation, but it was the best option I had to kind of figure out what was going on in their head when they were reading. So I was recording all the things they told me. Then I typed up what they said, and I read through those transcripts, and I started to look for patterns to emerge, something that these kids had in common. And as I did that, I came up with this little diagram because I'm a big graphic organizer person. And I figured out that they were doing many of the same things that we teach kids to do when they're reading print. So they were making inferences and predictions and activating their prior knowledge. I heard them tell me that they were doing these things. And so I mapped this out. I know it's kind of hard to read, but I mapped out what they were doing, and I compared between reading a book and reading on the internet. I compared how those comprehension strategies looked in those different settings. And my conclusion that I took away from my action research study was there are some unique things that we need to teach kids for them to be successful with reading on the internet. There's some technology things like what links are and where links take you and how you choose the right link, and some navigating things. Kindergarten and first graders have to know how to operate the mouse or to scroll with their finger, some of those kind of technical things. And so that comparison helped me get a bit better picture of what to teach children when they're reading on the internet so they can be as successful as when they're reading print. So that's basically in a nutshell what my study was. Started with a question. It started with something simple, something that I wondered about. Wasn't anything fancy. I didn't have to do a lot of research to figure out my question. It's something that was triggered in my mind, an interest, a curiosity that I had. So as you're thinking about what you're going to do for your project, think about your daily teaching activities. Think about the things you wonder about. I wonder what would happen if I did this. How would it change things if I did this? Could I make this better if I did this? And the project is a chance for you to actually try that out, to gather some evidence of how it worked, to look over that evidence in kind of a systematic way, and then to really kind of come to a conclusion about what you could do better. So one thing that your action research project is not, it is not a quantitative research study. There is no expectation that you are going to run statistics. There's no expectation that you're going to have to prove something with numerical data. It's more of how does this look in the classroom and how does it work? So you might use a pre and post test with students. You might observe them. You might make tally marks about how often they do something. You might ask them to share in a journal. You might give kids a survey and ask open-ended questions. So it's basic, trying to figure out if something's working. That's what you're doing. So think about that. See if some ideas come to mind that you can bring to your writing team. And as always, if you have any questions during Unit 2, please don't hesitate to ask those. Thanks.